Hey everybody, it has been quite a while since I have made a video update to this channel, and most likely this is going to be the last video update that I do to this particular channel. Life has a way of throwing me curves all through my life. Whenever one door seems to close, another one seems to open, and that's kind of been the case with this too. For those of you that don't know, when I started this channel, I was fresh out of truck driving school. I had drove a truck way back when I was in college, but just local stuff, picking up eggs from chicken farms. But anyway, later on in my life, I decided to give it a go again, and my wife and I was going to go see the country. And somebody talked me into getting my CDL and getting paid to go see the country. So that's what I did for a number of years here towards the end of my career, and I have thoroughly enjoyed it. There's virtually no place in America that I haven't been to, most of the time, multiple times. I have thoroughly enjoyed meeting people through all walks of life, through all industries. Man, I have been there, done that, seen it. America is absolutely amazing. There's no way to actually describe America other than the land of the free and the land of the brave. Really great people all throughout. I was born and raised in Florida. So that's kind of where everything started. And I always enjoyed going to Florida, especially going down to Miami and delivering loads and then picking up loads from down there and bringing them back through the state. This last carrier I was with, I went to Miami some, and then I went mostly over towards the Tampa area and drove empty from Miami back up to Tampa and picked up loads from there and then delivered them all over the country. That particular company was mainly hauling foods, but we hauled other stuff as well. So anyway, Georgia was a state that we did a lot of hauling out of, but mostly out of northern Georgia, in and around the Atlanta area, Macon to up to Tennessee, over towards Alabama, in that area. South Carolina, we hauled a lot of brick out of. We've hauled light bulbs out of there. I hauled light fixtures from right out of, I think it's called Sawgrass, actually, which is just south of Charleston, South Carolina, all the way to Portland, Oregon. That was a really good load. I enjoyed going all the way across from one side of the United States to the other. But we hauled a lot of stuff out of South Carolina as well. Mostly a lot of brick. There's a lot of diapers, adult diapers, feminine products, whatever that's being made over there around the border between Georgia and South Carolina. And we hauled a lot of that all over for companies like Kimberly-Clark. North Carolina was the same thing. We had a lot of food manufacturing in North Carolina that we hauled out of. Virginia was a state. However, most of the stuff that I hauled out of Virginia was over towards, kind of towards the Washington, D.C. side of, the eastern side of Virginia. And although we did haul some parts for Volvo trucks that was in Western Virginia, but most of it come out of Eastern Virginia, and it was food products over there. Pennsylvania, man, there's the whole state we hauled all kinds of stuff out of. Maryland, the same thing. One of the companies, we had a terminal there in Williamsport, Maryland, and I have spent the night there at that terminal so many nights. Man, and some of the best fried chicken on the whole interstate system is in Maryland, right right there in Hagerstown, Maryland at the AC&T truck stop. And if you don't know where it is, somebody's going to have to show it to you. But anyway, there is a Pilot right there across the street from it. But the AC&T, they've redid it now, and I don't know if it's as good as it used to be. But man, when it was a little hole in the wall, that was some of the best pork chops and fried chicken you'd ever find anywhere in America. But anyway, Pennsylvania, we've hauled food and products and all kinds of manufactured goods. There's a lot of manufacturing in Pennsylvania. Same thing with New Jersey. A lot of food, a lot of spices, a lot of imported stuff that comes in there at the ports in New Jersey. We hauled it all over the United States. I was one of the crazy ones that would go up to to New York and New York City. I've been to Brooklyn and Queens and all the boroughs of except I never went with the truck. I never went to Manhattan. That was the only borough of New York City that I didn't go to, but I've been all the way to the tip of Long Island. I've been all over. I really enjoyed it. One of my most favorite stories was delivering those little small liquor bottles that go on airplanes that they give you when you're on an airplane. I delivered those to an airport out at the tip end of Long Island. And if there's such a thing as a Yankee redneck, man, these two guys that were unloading my truck were thoroughbreds, and I had the best time with those guys. I would gladly go back there anytime. Really good, really good people. I have hauled hot water heaters to Brooklyn. I hauled a lot of liquor to Brooklyn, but I hauled hot water heaters with a bunch of Jewish guys, those guys with the curly sideburns and whatever. Man, they helped me parallel park multiple times a semi in downtown Brooklyn. So they were they speak in Yiddish. They knew I didn't speak a word of Yiddish, and I was laughing with them. So I don't care what they say. But anyway, they had met a thoroughbred redneck when they met me. Anyway, going on up into New England, and I've been to all of them. Been to all the way up to Maine. Spent the night on the beach or right off the beach in Maine, about a block away. Opened up all the windows and ports on my truck. I could hear the wind blowing and hear the waves crashing, and man, what a good night's sleep I got in Maine. But same thing with seeing some of the history in Connecticut and Vermont, Maine, Massachusetts, just going through seeing all the history. And I've been through Sandy Hook and seen all the stuff that ain't there no more, but I've been through there as well. I've been through Michigan, Ohio, you name it, and I have been there as far as the Northeast is concerned multiple times. We did a lot of business, and both companies that I worked for did a lot of business in Michigan. We did a lot of business in Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, all in that particular area. I was all over it all the time. Going further east and whatever, I got into Iowa, and man, when they tell you there's nothing but cornfields in Iowa, there is no lie to it. And there are some monster deer up there with big racks like you would never dream. With me being a hunter all my life, I was just in awe at some of the size of the deer that were up there. But Iowa is a beautiful place, really great people. Well, the biggest truck stop in America is there in Iowa. And going on over into of course, a lot of business that we did in Chicago, Illinois, and mainly on the south side of Chicago, but occasionally we'd go on up and then go into Wisconsin and go into to Minnesota, and I did a stint up there for a couple of weeks where we were delivering stuff for Walmart out of Minnesota, and I traveled all over the state. And beautiful place. It's absolutely a beautiful place, but I don't want to live there. Anyway, the same. We did a lot of business in Chicago, Illinois, and in Indiana. A lot of car parts and a lot of food products and whatever come out of Indiana. A lot of popcorn comes out of Indiana. So anyway, moving on across, as far as the South is concerned, we one company that I did a lot of driving for, we were all over Alabama, all over Mississippi. I got to know all the roads and all where to go, and then going. We didn't do a whole lot of business in Louisiana for some particular reason, but I did go through there every once in a while, just passing through. And man, I love Louisiana. I'd stop and talk to people and pick up some. When they were in season, I'd pick up the crawdads, and I love me some good Louisiana crawdads now. But Texas, I was all over Texas. Texas is a beautiful state, absolutely beautiful. Part of it is green and lush and got trees and got everything, grass, and the west side of Texas is like a totally different place. It's desert, and but it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I love Texas. Really good people there. They just don't know the difference between a pecan and a pecan. So anyway, out of New Mexico, I didn't do a whole lot of business. The only ticket I ever got was in New Mexico, in the middle of freaking nowhere, on a 2-lane road. Anyway, long story behind that, but it cost me $127 because I didn't know what a what a dirt path or a dirt spot on the side of the road was, a vehicle inspection station. So anyway, my whole term of driving, that's the only ticket I ever got. It was not considered a moving violation, so no big deal. But anyway, that's my only gripe with New Mexico. Arizona, on the other hand, is gorgeous from tip to toe, all the way from Nogales down there at the border, all the way up to way past the northern end of it up there, actually where it goes into Wyoming, and oh man, it is gorgeous. Utah and New Mexico, Arizona and Utah, that particular area right in there, oh man. Utah, that is a state that is pretty from one end to the other. Everything about it, gorgeous. It's absolutely just gorgeous. I'd go there anytime. We picked up a lot of cheese in Utah, but a lot of other stuff too, but a lot of cheese. But anyway, man, I love Utah. The deserts of Utah is just, golly, words can't describe how pretty they are. The I-17 from Flagstaff, Arizona down to Phoenix, Arizona, that's got to be one of the prettiest drives. Flagstaff can be 30 degrees and snowing. You get down to Phoenix, just a couple of hours seems like a way, and man, everybody's walking around in shorts and t-shirts and flip-flops, and it's what an unusual place. Man, what an unusual place. California, man, California's definitely for weird people. It's they don't understand how the rest of America lives. The Southern California is dirty, nasty, it's trash every freaking where. The air is so smog filled that you don't want to breathe it. People drive like crazy. Northern California, the people are still a little weird and crazy, but man, the scenery is beautiful. The volcanoes up in Northern California are just gorgeous. When when you go on up into Oregon and Washington, and man, it's Fort Hood up there, and that area is just beautiful, except for Portland. And Portland has lost its way. Before you ever even get close to Portland, you see on the interstate there's nothing but tents and homeless cities and people on drugs, and I mean they're right out on the expressway. They don't even care up there. There's no pride in Portland, Oregon anymore. No pride, man. God, y'all pray for Portland, Oregon. Washington State, I didn't go too far up into, but it's pretty up there. It's really pretty. A lot of big mountains, and a lot of big timber up there, and just beautiful. Coming on back, you get into Idaho. Idaho is just gorgeous too. That's the only place that I actually had to stop my truck one day going through Idaho. And I think it's called something Springs, Idaho. I forget. Anyway, I was driving along about 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 or so, and there was a moose standing on the side of the road chewing its cud. I come to a complete stop. It was a 2-lane road, and I come to a complete stop and sit there, and me and the moose kind of looked at each other. He's at eye level with me sitting in this semi. Them moose are huge, big. They're big. So anyway, he was just chewing his cud, and I slowly went out around him, and off we went. I've seen herds and herds of antelope, of elk up there. I mean, huge elk up there in Idaho. Going up around the top end of Yellowstone, I've been all through there with Montana, and Montana is just a fantastic state, just fantastic. There's nothing left to say about it. I am thoroughly in love with that part of the United States, with Wyoming, Idaho, Utah, Montana, North and South Dakota, and oh man, I thoroughly loved it up there. I thoroughly loved it, and I kind of wish I had moved up there as a young man and made my stand up in that part of the country. And it's just so pretty up there. Just good people, good people. But there's something they grow up there in North and South Dakota, and it turns all the fields yellow. And I still to this day, I've asked different people what it is that's growing. I mean, tens of hundreds of thousands of acres of this yellow stuff. And it's as far as you can see, and there's grouse in it, and there's pheasants, and man, especially in North Dakota, there's pheasants everywhere. I'd never seen wild pheasants before, but a lot of deer up there. I found an 8,000 acre farm in South Dakota. I had to pull over to the side of the road on a 2-lane road and just sit there and stare at the for sale sign. It was out by the road, and there was a mailbox there with a little 2-path lane going as far as you could see, and I couldn't even see the house. I could see the power lines going back there to it, but I don't even know how far the house was back in there. But man, what a dream. What a dream. Live in South Dakota. You ain't got to put up with nobody's nothing. And man, beautiful. I've seen the top of Mount Rushmore. I said about the top of their heads. That's about all you can see in a semi when you're that tall, and you can see over the top of the mountains to see the Mount Rushmore. That's about all you can see is the top of their head. And you got to really pay attention to know where it's at. But anyway, there's no place in America I haven't been over the last few years. And it looks like that's all come to an end. I am permanently disabled now. My shoulder is not healing up. I've got this torn rotator cuff. I've got some torn ligaments back here and my deltoids in the back. it still gives me problems and whatever. I just have to learn to live with it. It's something I'm going to have to live with the rest of my life. But anyway, this has been a real experience for me. I hope you have got something out of all the videos that I've made, the company reports. I'm going to tell you that I was driving for Creek Carrier whenever this injury happened. I don't particularly hold them in contempt over this or whatever. They have certainly treated me fairly through all of this. I'm still being paid for my workman's comp. I don't know how long this is going to continue, but they have, I am no longer employed with Creek. They informed me a few weeks ago that I was no longer employed with them. So, but I am still getting paid workman's comp through them. So I don't know, this is something that I'm going to live with the rest of my life, and I don't know if they're going to continue to pay me or going to settle, or I don't know. Right now I'm doing okay in life. So anyway, I hope you have got something out of this channel. I have been a woodworker all of my life. I've been piddling with this, piddling with that. I've made musical instruments. I've made furniture. I've made whatnots. I've made wall art. I've made picture frames. I've made all kinds of stuff out of wood. And I kind of hope that I'm able to continue to kind of piddle with that throughout my retirement years. I'm now over 66 years old, so I had planned on keeping the driving until I was 70, but that's just not going to happen. So anyway, throughout my retirement years, I hope to do some woodworking, and I'm going to start a woodworking channel that hopefully I can teach some of the people some things that you just don't see on the woodworking channels here on YouTube. I've got some new twists to things that are actually old things that I learned from my dad and my uncles. Woodworking tricks way back from then that I'm going to be bringing forward, and that channel is going to be called Jiggyfly Woodworking. So I've already made the channel. I just hadn't put any content on it yet, but I would appreciate it if you would go over and check that out occasionally, and maybe join me there, and you'll get a laugh or two and maybe learn something. Thank you so much for hanging with me all this. I have not got a penny for any of the videos that I've made. The channel just never grew big enough, but that's okay. I hope you've learned something. I hope there's something in all of this content that you were able to learn something from. Thank you again. I really appreciate you. I'm signing off. Jiggyfly the Trucker's gone.